Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 340 of Picks and Ponies. I'm your host tonight, Pete Visco, filling in for Howard Kravitz, who is in Las Vegas participating in the NHC, but we're going to hear a little bit more about that in a little bit. He's along with Paul, so we won't have our normal Picks and Ponies crew tonight. Paul, Howard, and Kyle are in Las Vegas. And again, we're hoping to get all three of them joining us in a little bit to talk through what's going on in Vegas, the NHC as a whole. And then my other co-host for the day, which you will be surprised to see when I pop them on the screen, will be talking about the late pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. So we're going to do a little bit of handicapping. We're going to talk a little bit of tournament. But before we do that, let me jump into a couple quick administrative items. Down at the bottom of the screen, you see what we always talk about on our YouTube channel. Smash that like button. We really want a lot of likes on this episode and all episodes because that tells the YouTube algorithm that you love this show and it's a show that everybody should see. Also, subscribe. Again, we always have ad hoc episodes, especially now that Derby season is coming. There's going to be ad hoc episodes that aren't on our normal schedule. So you want to make sure you don't miss those. And if you subscribe, they'll pop up and you'll see what's happening. For our audio listeners, again, also please listen, subscribe, rate, review on whatever platform you use, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, any of the podcast channels that you like. For our Twitter, or X, I should say, I still call it Twitter, at H Kravitz is the show and Howard's personal Twitter handle. You'll see our Twitter handles in our signature. And then we're also on Instagram at instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Also, check out our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Contains everything, sample podcasts, information about our power picks, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we have Kentucky Derby and Oaks info where you'll be able to see what we're doing is we're compiling all the prep races for the Derby and the Oaks. So you have a one-stop shop page when you want to watch all the Derby preps, all the Oaks preps. You can go to one spot. You don't have to travel around YouTube or search the internet to find all the preps. They'll be in one spot, along with I put out a weekly top 10 for the Derby, and the Oaks. So please check that out as well. And then finally, the HHH Racing Podcast Power Picks tip sheet. Low price, $16 a month, very profitable. If you can see below the video player, and on our website is the link to Patreon, and Patreon is where you can subscribe. And if you go on our website, you can see some samples just so you can get a feel for the kind of information that's included. Sign up this week. Myself, Noah Maher, with Howard out of town and busy with the NHC. We're going to give you some winners this week. So if you want to sign up, do it tonight so you can get it this weekend. So definitely that's a good idea. Then finally, upcoming shows. We have our normal schedule next week, but I think, and Howard can talk about this, on Monday, our Horsing Around will be a special recap of the NHC. Hopefully, we're talking about one of our guys winning the NHC, but either way, we're going to recap it, I hope, but I guess we'll ask them if that's going to happen. Otherwise, definitely join us anyway. We're always talking, recapping the week's stakes action, other news that's happening in the horse racing world. But we don't want to talk about that for too long. Let me real quick. I'll say hi to a couple people. Hey, Ralph, how's it going? We got Katie, of course. Katie, Ralph beat you today. I don't know about that. Brooks Lewis from Vegas. We got Tom. Hey, there we go, Katie. That's why you're here for the Pete Show. You know you love that. So without further ado, let's start bringing on. I'm going to bring on, first of all, from Vegas, live from the NHC, we're going to bring on Howard Kravitz, and I see some other bald man hovering around in the background trying to take up some space.
I got a serial. Oh, whoa.
That is
it's just
Matt Miller in the background. I'm going to bring on my other normal co-host from the Saratoga Special, another Bald Brotherhood, Paul Halloran from Vegas as well. And then now, hey, what's up, Paul? How's it going, man? So I'm going to bring on my co-host for tonight. We're going to bring on our West Coast specialist, Noah Maher, West Coast Bias, as you can see there. And then my other co-host, president of the Chris Paul fan club. We got my man Charlie Freeman here in the house. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Full house. This is crazy. We got a big crew right now.
Big crew. Crew. There you go.
It's a little loud. They're having a meeting in the background right now, a rules meeting, and so it's a little bit loud. So we apologize, but we'll be on.
Tell them we're live and to shut the heck up while we're live, because that's more important than anything they're talking about. Tell them. So first of all, we'll talk. We only have Howard and Paul, and hopefully Kyle can pull himself away from the craps table or the bar or something for 5 minutes and join us. But let's talk a little bit. Howard, just give us an update. What's going on with the NHC there? Give us a little lowdown.
Yeah, so today was the first chance, last chance, 1 day tournament. We had to play 11 races total, 4 mandatory and 7 optional. And the top approximately 35 players either got a seat, an extra seat, whatever, into the big tourney tomorrow and Saturday, or some people who already qualified with 2 entries for this year received an automatic bid to next year, the 2025 NHC. So it depended on, where you stood. I have 1 entry going in. I was trying to get a second. Wasn't my best day. I got all my bad beats and horrible decisions out of the way. But some people did well. Actually, I got someone right next to me who has an announcement, guys. So I'm a little surprised and did well. We got Tony Rowell from Crownsway Racing.
Hey.
And Tony got a seat for tomorrow, correct, Tony?
Dan did.
Dan did.
Yeah, Dan, another Crownsway partner, won a seat for tomorrow, so now he's double qualified. So we'll be we're here. We got a booth here for the whole weekend, and we'll be cheering on all the Crownsway partners in the NHC.
That's
Crownsway just bought some horses down at Ocala too at the big sale. I know you're going to come on with. He's going to come on with Kyle Roscoe, I believe, on Ben and Boozin to talk about some of their purchases for Crownsway. But I know they're really excited about that too.
Yeah, we bought 3 horses out of the March sale. We bought a beautiful Munnings filly, a very nice dialed-in filly. They were both out of the Lothenbach dispersal. And we also bought a Caracaro colt. That's first crop Caracaro, and we like him a lot. So anyone still wants to get in, if they're here in Vegas, come stop by the booth, or if not, reach out to me, and we could talk about getting more people in Crownsway.
That's awesome. That's Series F, right, Tony?
This Matt Miller's a scary dude. He's all over the place.
He's just all over. Yeah. Tell him to go. Just get a computer and join the show if he wants. What's he doing? Get on his phone or something.
You guys got a full crew there.
We got a big one. We want. So Paul, talk to us. What are you looking? This is your first one, right, Paul? This is your first NHC, correct?
Yeah, it is, Pete. In fact, I wrote a column about it. Maybe you could post it on the website. It's on the This Is Horse Racing. Just went up this afternoon, but
okay.
Kind of mainly focused on how I got here, and I think everyone knows that. As I wrote in my column, my road to Vegas ran through Lexington. And my good luck charm, Noah Maher, who I saw at Tony's on Friday night. So, Noah, I expect to see you this year on Friday night in Lexington.
Your wish is my command, Paul.
But, so I flew out today from Boston. I did not get in the contest because I wasn't here in time, and I still have a lot of contest races to handicap first, let alone today. So,
well, I was going to ask you that because this is your first time, Paul. So what's it been like handicapping such a big group of races in advance like this? Because it's different than just handicapping a sequence or even a regular card like we would normally do.
Yeah, it sure is, Pete. I have the excellent spreadsheet that our friend Brad Anderson puts together, and he has all the races in chronological order. I think there's about 75 tomorrow.
Nice.
There it is, Howard. And to be very honest, this particular week, Patrick, who's not on, would relate, but it's probably my busiest week of the year at home. So, which is fine. I invested in the upgrade on the plane today, so I could at least get 6 quality hours in. So
hey, just win this thing, and then you don't have to worry about work anymore.
It's as we've talked about, and I'm here with our friend Matt. It's a totally different animal. There's a guy named Howard who keeps putting stuff in front of the screen.
We can read it. There's the contest. So
Matt's Matt's going over to take care of him.
Yeah. Choke them out, Matt, if you can.
Yeah, so it's really, it's $2 win place bets and, picking winners, but obviously you're not looking for a series of 6 to 5 shots, right?
Yeah, I was
So-
going to ask that actually, because Howard, you've done this before. What's your system, and how do you handicap and pick horses differently than you would just in a normal race or in a normal sequence?
Well, you don't have as much time, Pete. I mean, we literally, I showed you guys how many tracks. It was literally close to 100 races each day, and you can't possibly handicap 100 races.
Yeah.
So you have to do a little bit of speed handicapping, but I'm sure Paul did the same thing. What's different here, Pete, is obviously you got to pick the races you want to choose, and once you pick those, you can only deep dive so much. So I just, of the 100 races, I know what types of races I want to play. I want to play bigger fields. I want to play vulnerable favorites because that will lead to more horses that are higher prices. I have a few parameters, and then you handicap the same way, other than the fact that for me in the optional races, guys, I'm not going to play anything lower than 5 or 6 to 1 because you can't nickel and dime your way to the top of this leaderboard. So I'm definitely searching for prices, for better, for worse. In the mandatories where everyone's got to play the races, that's up for debate. I mean, if you really love a 2 to 1 and they win, you know, you get what, $6, $3, that's $10.
Yeah.
That could be the difference between $10,000 and nothing. So I know people have different opinions on how to play the mandatories. I don't know what Paul's thought is. I'll probably be less price shopping in the mandatories and more in the options.
I mean, I know just doing pick and pray tournaments, which are the same standard setup. There's times where you wind up saying, "Man, I just should have took that 6 to 5 when I didn't think anybody could beat the horse," and then you lose a spot, you lose a money spot or a qualifying spot by $1 or something, and then you're pissed because you're like, "Why'd I try and beat that horse?" It's different too. In a mandatory, I assume you say, "Look, if I'm going against a horse that can't lose, I'm not going to waste too much time trying to find a 20 to 1 shot or something like that." But so Paul, did you go in with a strategy, or have you just sort of, I mean, I assume talking to these guys who've done it before probably helps a lot as well.
Yeah, and Howard and I haven't talked about it, to be very honest with you, because we really don't talk much, as you know. But I, in thinking about it, I'm thinking the same way. The mandatories, everyone has to play that race. So if you're sure a 2 to 1's going to win, take them. But you know, if you think the 2 to 1's vulnerable, obviously you want to go another direction. And I agree. In the optionals, you got to be. I'm thinking about the same threshold. You know, 5 or 6 to 1 or above. Howard will tell you in today's contest there were 3 or 4, I think, right, Howard, maximum payoff horses, including a horse from Aqueduct, the 43 to 1 shot, who got put up in the 8th race today.
So, got put up. I didn't even see that. So a horse got put up.
Yeah, for 60, a maximum of $64 in the contest. You can get 20 to 1 and 10 to 1. So, and Howard said something else, and I agree. Obviously, you can't look at all the races in depth. I am looking for races, that type of races that I like to play. And Howard's going to be horrified when I play a Fairgrounds Turf Sprint as an optional tomorrow. I was going to say,
I know Howard has all the turf sprints.
Coming right out of the chute with a Fairgrounds Turf Sprint tomorrow for Uncle Howard.
You don't want me to talk about the weather in New Orleans tomorrow, do you, Paul?
I don't want you to talk about the fucking weather anywhere.
When I'm hosting, we don't talk weather. When I'm hosting, we don't talk weather. We don't care about weather. The same horses win anyway.
Degrees, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's sunny everywhere. The whole country is nice.
But I will say,
go ahead,
if I can interject one more thing, especially for the benefit of guys like Noah and Charlie that are just learning how to play contests and anyone else out there. What I do, and I someone that's very helpful, I guess it's the teacher in me. When I write down the races and the horse that I might want to use in the sorry, I got a little quiet, in the optionals or the mandatories, I actually rate each pick by a letter grade. So I in my sheet that I've written down right now, I have some horses that I consider A's, some horses I consider B's or B minuses. And those are not like ABC horses, because that's different, obvious situation. These are basically on confidence. Like, A, I love this horse, you know, and then you got to see what the odds are, and you got to see if they're scratched or not. So I think ranking your choices is something very important in these $2 mythical pick and praise, because you only have, tomorrow we've got 10 optional races to choose from out of like 85, right? So you got to figure out where you want to go.
Yeah. Can I ask one more logistical question? Hey, there's Kyle. Hey, there's we got
Holy crap.
betting and boozing
never
host
watched
Kyle
football
with
my
his
entire
guys
life.
here. What's he talking about? Tell him to.
I don't know.
Focus for a
And I've
minute.
never walked so fast. I've never walked and ran through a casino so fast my entire life to get here.
Yeah. Did you stop at any blackjack tables or anything? Nothing.
No, I wish, but no. It took me 15 minutes to get this drink.
So supposedly he was with Emma getting a drink. It's 2-1 at Caesars that he was actually at the craps table the whole time, which is blowing off his podcast appearance.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure that's what it is. Noah and Charlie, you want to chime in on your host on that?
Yeah, you got anything for your boy here, guys?
I'd book that bed right now.
I mean, I just got word from the Sharps that's 1-9 now on Kyle going to the craps table and stuff. So
Hey, by the way, serious breaking news. I talked to Chris Felica today of Fox Sports. Very good chance he'll be on the podcast, either the Picks and Ponies or the B&B boy.
Nice.
So
Beautiful.
that'll be very cool. Charlie, I don't know if Charlie can be able to contain his excitement over that, but we'll try.
I'll keep myself respectful and very mature.
Wow, see how quick Kyle is? How do you do that?
Yeah, he's gone already. Boy, Kyle. You know, he's not as he's not as good as you two, who actually want to give some time to the pod. But we're not going to keep you guys. What do you got, Howard? I see you want to show
We might
us
as well do this live. Come on the screen here. All right. I'd like to present Kyle some of his clothes, some of his merch. He has not seen it yet.
Oh.
Maybe he'll display on the screen. We got 2 shirts and a nice hoodie. Kyle?
All right, let's see.
There you go.
Kyle, don't leave those at the bar later with a few too many. Oh, look at that.
All prize money will be distributed following.
There you go. We got
Yeah.
anybody listening. We've got the betting and boozing not
We
boozing.
got the hoodie here.
We got a hoodie. We got a B&B hoodie on the screen here, which looks fantastic.
Take it through the rest.
Boozing and not losing. There we go.
Kyle's
Awesome merch. Anything
right.
else? Is that it? All right.
We'll
So,
let him get back to his drinking escapades.
go have a cocktail, Kyle. Go
Let
pick
me
some.
tell you something. You don't want him on screen right now. It's best to be just.
Come on.
Hey, look. Hey, where's Terry? Isn't Terry there? You said. Why isn't he wandering around the podcast? Oh, there he goes. He's at table 60. Where's table 60? There you go.
All right. Anyway, thanks for having us on, guys. I don't know if Paul wants to end anything else, but it's been a great weekend. The best thing about just hanging out with people in the chat. We've had many people today come up to myself, Matt Miller, Paul, say how much they love the show, mention me.
Excellent.
So that's really what it's all about.
That's fantastic. Well, we want to wish you guys good luck. Pick some winners for us. Represent the podcast well, and kill it tomorrow, man. Get some sleep, Paul. Don't stay up too late. No strip,
I won't. Don't worry.
no strip clubs tonight.
Do not
Paul.
worry.
Keep it decent tonight. Keep it decent.
NTRA.com, guys. NTRA.com. They have a live leaderboard. Any information you want to find out, you can follow us there. Thanks,
Yes.
guys. Have a great show.
Enjoy. Good luck, fellas. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Bye. All right, there you had it, everyone. We have Kyle, Paul, Howard live from Vegas at the NHC. Hopefully they'll all qualify and bring home some. What do you think, fellas? They can bring home and they can buy us some stuff when they bring home about $500,000 each or something. $500,000 here,
that'll at
$100,000
least
here.
pay off Noah and I's merch orders.
That'd be nice, right? Shoot, if one of them wins, they should pay off your college. They should pay for college for the next
That too.
semester.
I
At
only
least.
got 2 semesters left after this one.
They can handle one of those at
That's
least.
nothing.
Come on, man, that's nothing. So we didn't get a chance to chat real quick. How you guys doing? Anything? What's going on? Anything exciting real quick before we get into Santa Anita?
No, I'm just kind of here on spring break. Sounds like Charlie's having a blast down in Florida. Sounds like he's been at Gulfstream. Are you going tomorrow, Charlie?
Yeah, no, I'll be going back again. Caught up with a good friend of the pod, Matt Bernier, today. I mean, look, I went up. It was a decent day, but it's one of those days where when you take a small profit, you got to be happy. But when you know that you could have spent an extra $10, $12 and walked home with $1,000, you wish you did. But we take the wins we can get. It's still nice to cover your hedges with some long shots. Look, Gulfstream's the track that Noah's West Coast bias. I'm Gulfstream bias. That's my track. So I'm excited to clean house hopefully tomorrow, and hopefully Noah can help all of us clean house at Santa Anita with our show today.
That'd be fantastic. All right. Well, I think everybody in the chat is waiting for us to get going. Let me bring up on the screen. So again, we're talking about, and I don't think, by the way, this is the first time the three of us know. I think I've been on a show with you. I know me and Charlie have done a few.
Oh, we've done a few of
together.
those morning shows. The
We've
best
done the
shows this
morning
show's ever
shows,
seen.
yeah.
Oh,
And we're
yeah.
always giving out winners, I think, on those morning shows. So we'll
Oh,
see if
yeah.
we can't do it a little bit here. All right. Well, let's start. So it's Santa Anita. We're looking at races 5 through 9 in the late pick 5 on Saturday. So we'll start with race 5. And race 5 is allowance optional claiming $50,000, $67,000 purse, going 6.5 on the turf, but not down the hill, just a regular turf course. And we have a very soft favorite, the number 8, Can't Sleep, for Frankie Dettori and Carla Gaines. Let me bring up our picks. We are going, so myself and Noah are going with the favorite, the 8, Can't Sleep. Why don't we start there since it's the favorite? Noah, what do you like about this 8? Why are we going to, what are we talking about here? Why is this horse going to win for us?
Yeah, I don't know about you, Pete, but when I was going through it and then I looked at the morning lines, I was actually kind of surprised that this 8 ended up being the favorite at 5-2.
Me too.
But nonetheless, there are a few horses that are coming out of that 6 furlong race on February 16th. So this is the one where, you kind of get the fresh face angle. And the thing for me was, as someone who kind of keys in on West Coast tracks, trainer Carla Gaines is not one to kind of have her horses cranked first time. So the fact that this horse was able to win pretty impressively, that definitely caught my eye. So just kind of with the second time or second start of the career, the kind of that natural progression. And also there's quite a bit of speed in here. There's either 3 or 4 horses that I think kind of have to send.
Yeah.
So I feel like
time, well, just real quick on that before so on the time form, as you can see on the screen here, it's time form is looking at it as a fast pace with 2 horses on the top and then 2 sort of sitting right behind. So looking at a closer like this, it's always, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you get a horse in their debut, you show the ability to pass horses, and then you're getting a hot pace in front in this one potentially. I mean, that looks like a recipe for at least a chance to get this horse if he's coming from off the pace again. Or she.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, hopefully Dettori doesn't have her too far back. The last thing I will mention is Dettori actually stays here instead of he had a chance to ride the 7 for Doug O'Neill, who was actually favored in that February 16th race.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that Dettori stays could definitely be a big tell in this spot.
Yeah, I like that too. Charlie, you have the 8 in second. You want to add anything, or you just sort of agree with what Noah's talking about?
No, I mean, look, this is Noah's wheelhouse, so I trust him. Yeah, I mean, I thought everything he said was interesting to me. Obviously, the works. I was going to say the main thing for me, honestly, that stood out is I know we talk about not playing jockey gymnastics, but again, like Noah touched, especially for me, I don't know, I'm guessing Noah saw this too. The fact that the 7 had a really solid debut, and instead of him saying, oh, well, maybe that last time effort that I got on was just a bit of a fluke, and stick it back out, as Noah touched on, the horse was a favorite after that great effort. So I think him switching to the 8 kind of shows that whether it's a fluke or not, he was so impressed with what he experienced on the 8's debut that it kind of overrides everything the 7 did on debut. I was originally going to put the horse on top, but then I was like, you know what? I was going back and forth between these 2, and it's funny because I just kind of had a feeling that you guys might both be on the 8, so I wanted to try to have something different. I really think these are the 2 standouts. I'll talk about the 3 now. I just think I'm actually happy, Pete, that you showed the pace projector because that was my angle for this horse. One of the things I liked is that if you look with Quick Kate, this horse has had experience with 2 hot paces. And in both of those races, the horse took advantage of it. She sat a few lengths off the lead and then just missed first time on debut and then won the next time out. So I like that this horse has shown the ability to sit the right trip. And I think the 3 could honestly sit that exact same trip again. And I see Noah as the horse in second. You have the horse in third. I'm guessing you guys saw the angle I kind of did that. If this horse sits that same stalking trip, and, kind of gets that first jump again on the closers, but maybe doesn't have to work as hard as the speed and pressers. This one may get the jump, and it'll kind of just come down to can the 8 horse get there in time. And then for my third choice, the 7, honestly, for me, I don't love this. I wanted to go with the 2 horse originally, who I know you guys have, and I have in fourth. For me, the only reason I put the 7 is because I'm someone who hates speed horses, and I know Pete, you and I have talked about our shared love of
we like the closers. Yes, sir.
But the only concern I have is if somehow, we always talk about these races where, it has to be a speed race. Everybody has to send. And then somehow nobody goes and that one speed horse gets away and you're like, what did I just do? So I wanted to at least have one of the speed horses in my top 3 in case that happened.
Yeah, I guess the one question with the 7, and then no, I'll let you talk about a couple of the ones that Charlie touched on, and then there's a couple in the chat that people asked us to mention. Blinkers off on this one. I wonder if they're trying to slow that speed down a little bit because was sort of getting involved in some hot paces early. I wonder if the plan from Doug O'Neill is to maybe try and rate this horse a little, or at least just not gun it out too much and then die like last time. That was my one question there. What do you have, Noah? So on we'll talk about the 7 quickly, because the horse is low price and you don't have that one in your top 3. Were you against this horse for any specific reason?
Yeah, the blinkers off certainly was definitely a question in my mind. I just kind of thought that, based off of numbers, I wasn't sure if the 7 was the fastest in the race, and we haven't really seen that kind of stalking ability from the 7 yet. The one who I thought was the fastest in the race is actually the 6, who I've gotten 3rd. It's no secret she was really bad last time, but just the fact that Cruel Jack kind of brings her back quick in the same kind of spot, I think that was just kind of a one-off. And she's done well on the front end before, and I'm not one to question Cruel Jack and his ability. So if there's anybody that's going to wire this field, I think it's going to be the 6.
Yeah, I could see that. I think we hit all the horses for the most part that we talked about. Well, actually, let's talk about the 2. So I have Shamrocking, the 2 horse, in second. And again, this was another one who I just thought from coming off the pace, if we get a hot pace up front, which we hope, and you're 100% right, Charlie. There's so many times where we talk on this show about, oh, this pace is going to heat up. There's so much speed. And then they let one horse go out on the lead. And then you're just pissed the whole time because you played the closers.
Worst races.
That's our worst nightmare, me and you, for sure. But the only thing I liked was, so the 2 position at this configuration, 38% wins, which is just a random thing. I'm not a big post position guy, but that was just something random that I happened to notice. There we go. Tanner, 8-3 is A, 6 is a B. Thank you. I just thought, again, if the pace melts down, I think this is a pretty good closer. As long as I think they're going to have to hopefully try and get this horse. Hopefully Franco can get this horse maybe in the mix just a little bit earlier, so it doesn't have to do too much, because this is a pretty quality field and it's a lot of the same horses. So I'd like to see this one, but I think she'll get going late, just the point of whether she has enough to get on top. We had a couple questions. I don't know if either one of you looked at the 1. We had some questions about the 1. Any thoughts on the 1? I didn't like the 1 at all, but either one of you had any thoughts? Did you consider this one at all?
I wasn't a huge fan of the 1, frankly. I thought with the decent amount of speed that should be kind of signed on here, I think it might be a little tough from that inside post. Pipey's very capable. The win 2 back is kind of just a 1 number. Other than that, this horse hasn't done too much running.
And I usually don't like when they have to drop down from maiden special to maiden claiming to break their maiden.
Yeah,
I usually don't love that coming back either. That's usually something that I tend to put a knock against a horse for that.
Yeah. I was just gonna add that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's the same thing. It's kind of the same thing with the 7, where if they do have that ability, which we haven't seen from them, if they have that ability to kind of sit off and go by, definitely one to consider, because there's out of the closers, it doesn't seem like there's anybody really that's going to be too close to the pace. It seems like all the closers kind of have to come from a little bit out of it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that sort of stalking mid-pack types, or at least ones that are super reliable. We did have some love in the chat for the 4 recalcitrant as well. Again, this is another one with speed, though, who just hasn't been able to hold. And it's hard to a horse that can't hold and actually it looks like it's been in a bunch of speed duels, which this looks eerily familiar, I should say, to what we might expect here, where I just feel like there's going to be a lot of speed. And I just don't know. Again, another one with blinkers off, which is odd, but maybe they're going to try and rate again. But I don't like horses who they're trying to rate. Like a lot of times these speed horses, they think they can rate, but they really can't, and they just can't pass horses. Charlie, anybody else you want to talk about or want to move on to the next one?
No, again, you had touched on the two. I think the horse is very interesting. We love our closers. I'm just worried it might be a little too short. I know we're getting a hot pace, but it will have to be super hot. The one, I just didn't like that there was no turf experience. And to take that with a horse who only has one good number for me isn't enough. I mean, as our host Kyle likes to always say, you won't talk someone off of 15-1. So like for me, yeah, if you like the horse enough to maybe use underneath one of the shorter prices, I'm fine with that. I just don't see the horse as a winner. And then with the 4, I kind of saw the same thing. I think it's a horse where I don't like that they're trying a bunch of different things and where it kind of looks like no matter what they try, the horse isn't fast enough. Yeah. And that would be a big red flag for me is if the horse isn't fast enough but is a speed horse and you're in a race this hot, I just don't really see a path to victory for that horse.
No, I agree with that 100%. All right, let's go on. We'll go on to the 6th. Let's look at the 6th here. 6th race, we have another allowance optional claimer 50, another purse 67 grand. This one 6 furlongs on the dirt. We have a field of 6. And this one, we have a little bit of a shorter favorite here. We have the 6 Matanzas Creek for Dettori again in Yakteen at 8-5. And our picks, let me bring our picks up on the screen. We are going with 2 5s, me and Noah. Me and Noah, by the way,
we are lockstep.
When you sent your picks over, I was like, uh-oh, me and Noah. Although the 3 of us can all hit the pick 5 when we get to them. So
okay.
that's at least a good sign. Is at least we can all hit the pick 5 together. Charlie has the 6 this time. Actually, Charlie, well, let's start with you this time. You're going with the favorite, taking a page out of your boy Kyle Roscoe's book, going with the chalk here, 8-5, Matanzas Creek. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I don't like right now is the fact that I had the 5 in between 3rd and 4th, and I just put the 1 and 3rd. Quite honestly, I think the horse has a chance, but the name is just too good to leave out of my top 3. For me, I'll tell you what, actually, the reason I'm okay with myself going with the chalk is because this horse has been major chalk 2 races in a row, and I was actually against the horse in both races.
Yeah.
I don't know if people remember, but we had actually covered that Santa Anita race where the horse lost to American Red, White, Blue. And Kyle, I know this is going to sound stud embrace for this. He actually was also on American Red, White, Blue with me, so he was against the chalk in that race. I know it can happen sometimes. And I still thought the horse honestly ran well. I mean, losing to American Red, White, Blue is nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah.
I just thought that the way the pace in that race and the distance set up, it fit better for that horse. And quite honestly, again, it was a pretty surprising effort to me. I thought the 6 wasn't going to have a chance. I just think back to a more reasonable distance. I don't think there's been any bad efforts. I wouldn't call the horse a money burner by any means either. I like that Dettori's aboard. I know the horse had Pratt in the past, but I don't think Dettori's any sort of downgrade. I like the consistency. I mean, honestly, other than the debut, you're getting 3 very solid efforts for me. I mean, I don't love a short price, but I just think this is the class of the race, and I just didn't want to overthink it. Again, I didn't want to also go all chalk, so I liked the 1 with the name. But for me, the 6 personally was the horse that stuck out to me.
Yeah, the one thing to me that, and I like Sharp as Attack as well. I think Sharp as Attack is a pretty good horse. I don't think it's any knock losing to that one. The question always is when they come back, and not everything is about figures, but if you look at a horse figure perspective, when they come back at 4, you hope for at least the same, and then the improvement maybe second out for the year. I don't like the dip, but again, figures aren't everything, so it's not like that's going to be the end-all be-all. Noah, you have this horse in second, as do I. Anything else to add to it? Any reason you didn't put this horse on top, or you just like the 5 better, who we'll get to in a second?
No, I was kind of flip-flopping between the 5 and the 6 on top. The thing with the 6 is with the last race, he did have a little trouble, but it really wasn't much. And I feel like if he was really all of that, he should have kind of gone by.
Yeah.
And he really didn't. And you kind of see the last 2 races, he's been a pretty heavy favorite, and he kind of hasn't gotten it done. So with that kind of resume at the price that he's going to be, I was a little inclined to kind of not have him on top. So I ended up going with the 5, who I think is kind of the fuzzy in here. If there's really anybody in the race that we kind of don't know what they can do, or we haven't kind of seen what their ability is, I think it's kind of the 5. This is a well-met horse for Baffert, obviously, and JJ hops on. It was a pretty heavy favorite in the debut, and then stretched out to a mile and won pretty nicely. The only concern would be the cut back to 6 furlongs. Maybe this isn't necessarily what he wants to do. I've actually watched a couple of his works, and he's a really big horse. So he just looks like one that might need a little more distance. But in terms of kind of that fresh face that I kind of talked about in the last race, I thought the 5 was kind of it.
Yeah, and it's funny. The 5 was terrible. The 5 Fifth Street for anyone Baffert, who's a $950,000 purchase. So, like Noah said, definitely well meant, at least as a at purchase time. And then In that first one, it's funny, ran terrible, did nothing from the 10 hole, but 5 next out winners came out, including the first 2. And Sir Atticus is really good, and Elwood Blues, we're going to see later.
Talk about it later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about in a bit. And I had a couple stats, which people can see all my stupid little notes on the screen here. Baffert, 48% wins, 86% in the money, maiden winners last out in allowance on dirt at Santa Anita. And then he's also fantastic, 41.73 off this type of layoff when it's talking about dirt sprints. So again, it's Baffert. It's a horse where if I can beat a morning line 8-5 favorite with what we hope is a fast Baffert horse, that's not a bad situation to be in. Charlie, you have the 4 in second, and we have the 4 in third. Hey, brother, 2-1 for Barocchio and Rispoli up. What do you like about the 4, Charlie? You there, Charlie? Can you hear us? Oh, did Charlie freeze? Is he frozen? Looks like Charlie
Charlie Friesman.
either he's really focused on a game right now or something, or he froze up on us. So we'll go to you, Noah, until we get Charlie back. What did you like? You have the 4 in third, as do I. What did you like about this one?
Yeah, this was one where he got the job done last time. I just kind of think the 5 and the 6 might be a little more classy. The horse that he beat, or the horse that ran second to him last time, Vegas Burner, is a horse that I think is like 0 for 11 or 0 for 12. So when you kind of beat one of those forever maidens, it doesn't really doesn't really kind of pop off the page. So with a horse that's going to be 2-1 and you've got numbers that kind of compete with this field, but when you look further into it, what he really has beat is really not that great, and compared to what kind of the competition that Matanzas Creek has kind of finished second to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And this was one, the only thing I liked a little bit was it's a short field, and I felt like this one is tactical enough where potentially could get first run. And the one thing we didn't look at was the time for him here. And if you look at the time for him here, this is not expected to be a fast pace. It looks on the board here, you could see it looks like a merry-go-round kind of race. So with the favorite, and when those races where you have the favorite who's got potentially the pace advantage as well, that is tough, especially if you have a horse coming from off the pace. Let's see. I think we have Charlie back with us, maybe. Charlie, you back with us? I can't see your picture, but I can't tell if you can hear us or not. That is a no. It looks like Charlie is not moving. Yep, he's gone again. All right, we lost Charlie for a bit. Anybody else here you want to talk about? I didn't really like any of the other horses. We've talked about, I guess the one Charlie had. The one was weird because and you probably know this horse pretty well, Noah, ran in the Santa Anita Derby, but it's one of those horses where you look at it and go, the horse lost to Hijazi, lost to Skinner, but you like breaks the maiden, and you go, let's just throw this horse for the hell of it in the Santa Anita Derby. It's one of those when you look at the field, you go, what the hell is this horse doing in it, I assume?
Little bit, yeah. Well, with the one, he's been off since April. So with Garcia kind of throwing him in a 6 furlong race, I think this is just kind of one to get him kind of freshen him up.
Yeah,
I think he kind of needs one, and then next time, kind of if he runs kind of okay, they'll probably try to go 2 turns with him. Somebody mentioned Pop Dioro, the 2, in the chat, who off of numbers, he hasn't run since late 2022, and he's been off for a while. Now he's in the Parabon Parn, who has been pretty hot actually at this winter meet. And this is also a first-time gelding, so if he can really step up those numbers, he could definitely be a player in here. And then I'll just rattle off the last one. The last one's the 3 Havildar. Switching from Brad Cox, and I believe was in the Juddmonte barn, switching to Rick Dutro, who's had quite a few horses out here. Him and Jonathan Thomas are a couple that have shipped some stock over to Southern California. This horse hasn't raced since August, and he also hasn't gone this short in his career. So maybe with the cutback and the trainer switch, it might be a little fit.
I thought this one was maybe I thought this was maybe sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I thought this maybe was just a prep to get this horse a little bit back in shape, and then would stretch out again potentially. Charlie, you back with us? Let's see. Is it?
Am I?
Yeah, now you're back again. Now you're back.
All right.
That's all right.
As Noah and I like to say, get ready to learn betting and snoozing because my bedroom might have the only Wi-Fi that's strong enough. So I'm going to go back in here for now.
That's all right. We somebody in the comment mentioned that that it was your hot take analysis that was was frying your internet, and that's what it was. So we talked about everybody here. So we'll just move on to the next one. Yeah, we talked about the move to Garcia here. Just one quick stat for anybody watching. I had Garcia was 0 for 17 on the win end, first after a trainer switch. So you don't love that. Off a long layoff with figures that are, maybe a little light, we're not sure, and a horse that's going to be coming off the pace into a potentially slow pace. Maybe not the best scenario, at least on the win end here. All right, let's go to the seventh race. We have maiden special weight per 65,000. Going a mile and an eighth on the turf. We have a field of 8 with a favorite, the number 6, Let Seamus Go at 5-2 with JJ Hernandez up. And we are going to go, let's see, where should we start here? Noah, you're on the 5 horse here. That is Indispensable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, at 4-1. So you're going with the 5. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, so with Indispensable, I really like this move to the grass today. This is a pretty talented 3-year-old where kind of based off the numbers, he's kind of just improved a little bit with each start. But in the last race, I think he had a little bit of trouble. I noted that early in the race, he didn't break great. So Kimura tried to get him a little more involved, kind of going around the first turn, and he kind of had to check and steady. And then once he was kind of asked for his run, he had kind of expended his, he had exerted his energy. I mean, at that point, so that one was a little bit of a toss for me. So if you can kind of guess that he's going to improve off of this race, I think the switch to the grass is really what's going to be key for him. Sadler's a great guy. You can see it on the bottom left. First time turf, he's 22%, 22% as well, going from dirt to turf. Then the jockey switch to Rosario, I think, is going to be huge. We always like to joke about Rosario when he kind of he pulls horses to the back and doesn't give them great rides. But when he's instructed to do, what a trainer tells him to do, he's one of the best turf jockeys in the country. So if he's able to kind of sit off the lead, I think the 6 Let Seamus Go, who we've all got in there, is going to be the speed of the race. So if he can kind of sit off, let Seamus go, I think he's going to set himself up well.
Yeah, and here we just have sort of a moderate pace with the 2 on top, the 2 Bartholdi on top, and then the 6 Let Seamus Go. So we have those 2. We'll go Charlie. Charlie, you want to add anything real quick on the 5, or are you sort of in agreement with everything Noah said?
No, I agree with Noah completely. I think this horse has, been in the best fields. I think obviously it's going to be interesting to make the switch to the turf. I think the horse is continuing to improve. I mean, the only reason I didn't have this horse on top was just because of no experience on the turf yet. So you can't obviously, guarantee it's going to work well and the switch will be there. But I think this horse is by far the most potential of anyone in the field. To be honest with you guys, I'm a little surprised with all the love for the 6. I know we were talking about earlier how that 6 horse earlier was maybe a favorite to beat. To me, I think if there's any favorite to beat in the whole sequence, it's very clearly Let Seamus Go. I won't get too biased because I know Noah knows one of the reasons that I don't think this horse has a chance at winning. But quite honestly, the other angle, besides the obvious one that most people should be able to tell if you look at who's been riding, is also just the fact that this horse has had every opportunity to get the job done and win and just can't finish the job. And we talk about those horses. I know Noah's talked about it a few times on our show about horses that just seem to not want to get their picture taken. And that's what I see with Let Seamus Go. I think this horse has run against weaker fields than some of the other main contenders. And I understand there's been some hot paces, but still, even when the 6 had a more reasonable pace last time out, still couldn't get the job done. I'm just beginning to wonder when it will happen. And for me, if you're giving me 5-2 on a horse that no matter what ideal trip this horse gets, and this is a need the lead who's been able to get the lead and still can't execute, I just don't trust the horse at all. For me, it's a complete play against. And then moving on to my top choice, the number 3 horse.
Yeah, American Glory, 3-1.
I
Yep.
just see a lot of potential. I mean, I know Pete, I'm sure, can figure out right away something I like about this horse. If you look at the running style, it's certainly not a speed horse by any means.
No.
But what I like is another thing we've touched on a lot, because now that, Betting and Boozing has moved up in the world and we've gotten to start covering some of these bigger races where we get overseas horses coming over. A big thing I've watched, Pete, you guys talk a lot about on the main show is there's plenty of times where these horses that have their first race in America kind of need a race to get themselves acclimated. And, a lot of times it could be terrible and then they get it going. So for me, I think that was I know this horse lost to Let Seamus Go, but I thought for a first time out effort in the U.S., and for a horse that was at 11-1, I was pretty impressed with that debut. I don't know what you guys thought. I mean, I know, Pete, you obviously would agree that you thought the horse is solid with having the horse on top. I'm a little surprised, no, you didn't have the horse in the top 3. But I just see, again, going back to why I like the 5, I think the 3 and the 5 are the 2 horses with the most potential, the most room to improve, and the least, bad excuses. I think they have the most reasoning to still be maidens. And that's another thing I really look for in these kind of races is what horses can you justify why they're still maidens versus what ones are you I mean, I don't know how they're still a maiden. For me, that I've quickly learned as I've gotten better. It's more of a red flag to be oh, they're just going to get it next time. When you keep getting those near seconds, it gets to a point. And then my third choice was the 8. I think I might be the only one who had that horse anywhere.
Yes.
Scout of Courage. I didn't know what to make of this horse. I think this one's a little bit of a wild card. I thought it was interesting that for a horse who on debut did nothing, then second time out decides to send, and then they decide to stretch a horse that sent and faded. I thought that was a bit of a weird decision. But I thought this horse ran fine. Again, for me, it's just a potential angle. I thought that second effort was really good. And the other thing we kind of talked about is for speed horses, it's very beneficial to be on the outside. So I just think, if this horse sends and can get the lead, then who knows? Maybe this horse can get the job done, and I like the jockey continuity. So I just thought underneath, if this horse at a price can finish behind the 3 or 5, you can get some decent value.
Yeah, I think there's some love. We saw C Money here with giving a little bit of love here. Said Shot of Courage sat too close to far too fast of fractions last out at the same distance, should benefit from a more reasonable pace today. That's definitely fair. And again, we have a comment here. 9 furlong races are susceptible to being wired, speed, and stalkers for me. Chuck the closers. That's C Money again. We didn't talk, so we'll go quickly, Noah, to the 2. Bartholdi is your horse you have in the 3rd spot. What do you like about this one? We got Dottori up again, back on again. We're adding blinkers here. So, and coming off the first time, off the layoff, second off the layoff, was on the turf last time. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, I thought the second off angle was pretty significant with this horse, Bartholdi. I like the fact that Dottori stays and Callahan decides to put the blinkers on. In the last race, the winner Island Cruiser kind of just took him around the track. It was also a good turf course that day, so it seemed like it was a little bit of conveyor belt. So I think on the stretch out and with the equipment change, I think Dottori's going to have this one sitting a little bit closer, kind of thinking the same scenario with the 5 I've got on top. So if Dottori's got him closer in a race that doesn't seem to have a ton of speed, I think he's got a shot to kind of sit off and have a chance from there.
And again, from a time form standpoint, as we looked at before, the time form predicts the 2 to be on the top. So if that is the case and can back it down a little bit, I think you got a good case here, especially, again, with the added blinkers. And now you're also getting second Lasix as well. So, and you're getting a little bit more distance so that the speed doesn't need to be super fast speed. It just needs to be, let's get on the lead and then cruise a little bit on the backstretch and then see if we can kick home late. All right, I think that's everyone here. I think we hit all the horses in our top 3s. Why don't we move on to the feature of the day? We're talking about the Grade 3, the Race 8, the Grade 3 San Carlos Stakes, $100,000, 7 furlongs with, as you can see on the screen here, it was a field of 7. The 5-horse See Through It has scratched already. The favorite here, a name we all know and love. Actually, it's such a cool horse. The Chosen.
How many of us
Run.
have this horse?
Yeah, I mean, isn't this? I'd like to own this one. 3-5, the Chosen Run. Let's see if we're all. I don't remember our picks. Let's look. We are all going with the Chosen Run. Yep, there we go. Let's look. I will let Charlie. Why don't you? Actually, no. Noah, this is a California bred superstar. Let's go to Noah. This is one of his home horses. I assume it's a. Although last time I remember the Chosen Brahma when you were trying to beat him, right? That was this win here off the Breeders' Cup, right? Didn't work out so great that day, but you got to love this horse overall, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an owner of this horse, every time he runs, I mean, you're just through the roof. But this is a horse, as a handicapper, we always have those one or two horses that are just really talented, and we always try to beat them.
Yep.
And we can just never figure out how to beat them. And this is definitely one of them for me. I've kind of given up on that. I think he's definitely the best horse in the race, and I'm not going to try and get cute in here, as you guys aren't either. So from a pace standpoint, I thought the two who I've gotten second is probably going to be on the lead.
Yeah,
I don't know if
here,
the two can.
So the one would sit the pocket. Sorry, no, just say on the screen here. Yeah, we got the two on the lead, the one sort of sitting a perfect pocket trip. But go ahead on the two.
If the two can kind of set easy fractions, I think it's going to make it a lot easier on him to kind of get the jump on the Chosen Brawn. But I'm not sure if the two can go 7. So from a number standpoint, I think the Chosen Bronze just kind of got this group outclassed.
Yeah, I mean, I like the two. I just thought, and again, it's Baffert, but he has run twice in his 4-year-old season. Did get better, so went from last, and honestly, the only 2 losses, Arabian Lion and Sir Atticus, in his first 2 starts, and those are pretty high quality horses. But again, if you're going to get, I mean, even if Elwood Blues, the 2-horse clears, you're going to have Chosen Vron. Generally, you would expect to be sitting right behind, and then when he attacks him in the lane, he's just tough, and he's going to have a hard time I should say, holding off the Chosen Vron. Charlie, what do you think about the 2? You don't have the 2 in there. Any big knock against this one, or are you just looking for something else underneath the 1?
No, I mean, I'll talk about my bias in a moment. I had this race 1-4-2, but when I saw the name of the 6, there was no way in a race where you already know the Chosen Brawn's winning. You got to have fun, and I'm a huge McLaren F1 fan. Look, the horse is solid. I'm not going to act like if I like the name, I'm not going to put him in. But I do like that this horse kind of does like to sit a little bit, and I kind of took the angle of, I completely see the argument of the 2 could not wire the field, but have the jump on the whole field. But I just feel like there's no way the Chosen Vron lets this horse get too far away. And as Noah touched on, my biggest concern is I don't think the horse will get the 7. For me, the way I would be most excited about this race is trying to play, the exactas to find value. And I just feel like these Baffert horses are always going to get hammered. So I feel like you're also not going to, I don't think you'll get much value on that 2 and the 1-2 exacta anyway. So I'd rather look towards the 4 and 6. I think Ghost of Midnight's very interesting. I don't think the horse will win again. But I do, again, just like that setting off the pace trip. And I just think if they do go fast enough, this horse easily could, sit a similar trip to the 6, and one of them could maybe get up for a little bit nice of a price at second. And I think it's a lot more realistic with the scratch of the 5, not making a huge difference, but I think it is more realistic to get closer to that morning line price on the 4 and 6. Whereas I feel like the Chosen Vron will probably be 1-5, maybe 2-5 at best. And I feel like that Baffert might drift down to like 3-1, 5-2.
Yeah, this is one of those races where if you're looking, I assume if you're talking about what you're thinking and playing sort of a cold exacta or even a cold try, you sort of let the board tell you to see what the exactas are paying if you can catch one of those other horses. And then, if the Baffert horse, sort of like you guys mentioned, if Elwood Blues can't get the distance and gets on the lead, and then the Chosen Vron sort of takes his heart a little bit, then you pick one of these other horses because you assume this horse is going to take money. I mean, it's Baffert, won 3 in a row. It's Hernandez. It's got a decent figure last out. So you assume this horse is going to take money. So if you can beat him for second, and if on one of these other horses floats up and you can get, 5, 6, 7-1 on an exacta, I'd take that. In a short field, when you're going to have a 2-5 shot, I'll take 5, 6, 7-1 in an exacta any day of the week. Noah, you got any more thoughts on this one? Or how would you play this race, I should say? What would you be thinking if you were trying to play this race just from a betting standpoint?
Yeah, I think doing the exacta and trying to beat Elwood Blues in that second spot is a good way to go. You could try, and because the races before and after I think are pretty difficult turf races.
Yeah.
You could definitely do a double either into Chosen Vron or start it with Chosen Vron, and then you can kind of get your value in one of those difficult turf races.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, you assume a lot of people are going to try that, but if you have on one of the bookends, if you can have a decent price, and we'll get to the 9th and the 2nd, if you have a decent price there, then I think that's definitely a good way to play it. But we'll move to the last race, the payoff leg. Oh, where am I doing there? Going the wrong way. In the 9th, we have starter optional claiming 50, purse 38,000. We're going a mile on the turf. and we have a nice decent sized field of 10 here. And this is one like you were talking about, Noah. This when we have a lukewarm favorite, the 5-horse Caribbean King with Barrios for Nap at 3-1. So this might be a tough race where you can maybe pull something out and actually get a half decent double in. Let me bring up our picks on the screen here. We're all going with a horse different on top this time. Charlie, you're going with the favorite, the 5 Caribbean King. Why don't we talk through that one first? Tell us what you like about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I will say one thing real quick, just because I wanted to point out in the chat. I thought C Money, real quick on a note from the last race, I thought was interesting is that Ghost of Midnight only has 1 loss, and it's to Hijazi. So I do think that horse is a little bit slept on because that's a pretty impressive record, and the cutback could work. But going into I think this race, I don't know what you guys thought. I think having a soft favorite makes sense because for me, I switch. I mean, I don't have the 7 on my top 3. I have my order 5, 10, 9, 7, but I swapped between all 4 of them for who could win. I think legitimately you could make a case for, I mean, I think there's still other horses, but I think if we're talking about if you try to narrow it down, I think any of those 4 horses could legitimately have an argument to win. And I also will say, I to beat the chalking and weasel allegations, the PPs that I have from the PDFs don't have odds, so I didn't know I was picking the favorite. I think
I've done that the last 2 weeks, Charlie. I've gotten so by the time I got on the show, I didn't see the prices until I got on the show, and I had 2 weeks in a row where I was like, I should be making the morning line because I keep basically picking the top 4 horses odds-wise in the race. I was so pissed because once you get on the show, you just look like a chalk eater, and I was like, I don't like that, but if you're doing it without the odds, then it makes it a little tougher. But at least you feel like, hey, I might be on the right track because I'm picking the horses that are in line with the odds makers. So at least your sort of handicapping seems on par with what other people are seeing. But go ahead, please.
Right, yeah, and I mean, look, maybe they read my mind, or maybe just some people in certain tracks are better at making mortal lines than other tracks.
It's true.
Yeah, with Caribbean King, I like the improvement. I like that if you look at this horse, you're steadily seeing a horse that kind of maybe seemed to be, topping out at those, mid to high 60s is now a horse that, is reaching that new ceiling and just ripped off a 78. And I know when you go from the Chosen Ron race to getting excited about a 78, you can clearly see there's been a little bit of a drop off in ability.
It's all relative, my friend. It's all relative.
Exactly. It's all relative. This horse took a nice step forward from last time out. I didn't think the effort last time out was bad. The horse had to check at one point, I believe, when I was watching the replay, and still ran on for an okay 4th as the favorite. It was also a pretty hot pace, which is not ideal for a horse like Caribbean King that is going to be pretty forwardly paced and probably more of a press or stalking position. But last time out got that more reasonable trip, which I think Caribbean King could honestly work out again, where the horse just sat a couple lengths off the lead, which is where this horse is at its best, and then went by and was able to go on to win against another horse in this race that we all, I think, have somewhere in there in the 9 in Precision Strike. I know at least I have this horse there. So again, I was just impressive with the step forward, and wow, it's pretty interesting that they have the 5 being able to send.
Yeah, I was going to say they have the 5 here with a slow pace, so there's just not a lot of. When I looked at it, I was just thinking there's just not a lot of other speed, at least on paper. There's not a ton of speed here, so this 5 could just inherit the lead just by being naturally faster than some of the other.
Which might not be a problem because again, the main struggle this horse has encountered, and I don't even want to say struggle harshly because it's not like it was bad efforts. But if you look, the main issues Caribbean King has run into was being in hot paces. So I think this could really set up nicely. And then, going into who I have underneath, I went towards the outside with the 10 and the 9. With the 10, I know it's the slight cutback, but the effort at a mile was good. I know it's not exactly a buyer top because it was 78 and then 77, but for me, it was close enough. I like the consistency and that this horse is making progress. The one concern I would say is this horse likes to sit a little farther back and that hot pace won't be there. And you look at the career best effort 2 back, the horse got a hot pace. So that would be my one concern. Again, I'm biased towards my closers, but it'll come down to can the horse have enough pace to close into. I thought the 9 was very interesting as well. I like the Totori stayed aboard. Again, my one concern, exact same concern as I have with the 10 is will there be enough pace for this horse to close into? And then closing out with the 7, again, the same angle for me. I thought the 4 horses that were really interesting to me, 3 of them want to be off the pace. 1 of them likes to be forward. 3 of them have their best efforts in hot paces. 1 of them has their best efforts in colder paces, and it looks like we're going to have a colder pace. So I think this sets up best for the 5. But look, maybe this could be the reverse, which is what we would love, Pete, where it would be a cold race that actually went hot.
That'd be nice for us. It usually doesn't happen for us. Why don't you, Noah, let's jump to you real quick. You can first give you don't have the 5 in there at all. So what was did you have a specific knock against the 5 or was it just, hey, the numbers game where somebody's got to be out of the top 3?
I didn't necessarily have a knock. I mean, when I did the power picks, which you guys are going to see on Saturday, I mean, I've got 7 horses in my ABC, so I
Oh,
thought
nice.
this
So
race
you're a little
was
wide open.
pretty difficult.
By the way,
but
real
with
quick, no, let me just bring up this one comment. This, here you go. Kyle from Jim Pilar's. Kyle would be proud of Charlie's picks tonight. Just wanted to throw that little dig in
Yeah,
there
but he
for
does
you.
it with the morning lines already, so he knows he's eating the
That's
chalk.
true. He
I
knows
didn't.
he's eating the chalk. Go ahead, Noah. Sorry, Caribbean King.
Yeah, but with Caribbean King, you know, someone that follows the racing down here, Steve Knapp is just such a lethal trainer, you know, off the claim. So I think just kind of the last race, that 78, was just kind of off that natural progression and kind of how Steve's able to improve his horses kind of first time. You know, second time off the claim is not necessarily the same thing. I think first time and second time are definitely different between each other.
Yeah, I have this stat here in the notes. Nap 1 for 19, second after the claim.
Okay, yeah,
with a win if they won first off the claim. So if this horse is
yeah,
won first off the claim, so that was one knock. But again, if you're getting a good horse, but I think to your point, you getting a horse who I like a horse that ran their best race of their life after the trainer switch, just because maybe he's just found something, or was it the drop down to the maiden 50 that sort of brought him and finally got him his win? It's hard to gauge which one was the, I
yeah.
guess, the more important factor in that case.
Yeah, and to your point, Pete, it's kind of the same thing with the 10, where you see that buyer improvement once the horse switched to the Marquez barn. But what I like about the 10 is he kind of matched that last time. So I think this is just kind of a different animal in this barn. And I think it's funny because we're lockstep again. I was kind of between the 7 and the 10 to put on top. But I kind of thought those two out of the group were the ones that would kind of appreciate the mile and eighth more than the others.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess I always have a hard time. And Charlie, I assume you like in closers like I do. You run into this where sometimes I like the closer, but I discount the pace advantage. So you wonder in a case like this, will the 5's pace advantage be the key as opposed to looking at some of these other horses that are going to be coming from further back? It's hard to gauge, really. Let me see. There's a couple in here. So we had Tanner Hawkins in the chat. If this race had any pace signed on, I'd like the 10 much more. Any interest in the 3 or 4 here at decent prices, possible B types? Noah, what do you have? Let's go up here. We'll talk to 3 first. Anything on Gold Council at 20-1? This wasn't a horse for me. I didn't really have anything I liked about this horse. You anything?
No,
you Charlie?
this was actually one of the 3 that I didn't use.
This is one. So that's a guaranteed winner then, basically.
Yeah. Tanner should go book that right now.
Yeah.
But actually, the 4 I've got in there. I've got the 4 as a B.
Oh, nice.
You look at 2, 3, and 4 back. I mean, those numbers fit really nicely with this group. The horse he's been off for a while, and it's not really Carla. It's not really Carla Gaines' thing to kind of bring a horse and get him in the winner's circle off this kind of layoff. But Freysu's riding about as good as anybody. So the fact that he hops on, these two hit at a pretty decent clip.
I mean, honestly, none of these horses win, or they wouldn't be in this. They wouldn't meet this condition. But it's tough when you get the horses that are getting up this high. It's hard to start trusting them. But I mean, a lot of these horses, as you go through these, a lot of these horses look like really good board horses for sure. Like horses that definitely have a shot to hit the board. But obviously, somebody has to win the race. I don't know. I'm with you, Charlie, where I think if you were looking at this, either one of you, and you're talking about the chosen Vron Inn, is there a horse you specifically think from not just a horse you like, from a price perspective, where you think you might be able to get a decent double? Is there 1 or 2 horses you would focus on? Because I think that's something that people will look at, try and get the free square, and then hook it up with one of these horses. No, Charlie, you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not the best price, but I think because it'll be open, I think you can get away with anyone. My kind of advice would be to either take one of 2 angles. Either pick one of the favorites and then a long shot, or just pick a few middling prices. And then that way you can kind of Dutch it, as Kyle always talks about, balancing out. I mean, honestly, for me, again, I think the 5 is the horse to beat, and it sets up nicely. But actually, it's funny. The one other horse that, I mean, it's not on my ticket and it isn't in my top 4, but I'm actually happy we brought up the 4 because, like Noah said, I think the 4 would actually be the only double-digit horse that really stuck out to me. Would be the one horse that we didn't touch on or that we didn't have anywhere that's interesting because, 1, the numbers fit, and 2, like we were just touching on, as we were talking about which horses struggle and succeed in different paces, the 4 is another one like the 5, where last time out was a red-hot pace and it was a disaster. But you look at some of those races where Noah touched on that had those higher speed figures, and those were colder paces. So I think the 4 could be another one that benefits from a more reasonable pace and could be another one that could surprise. Look, will the horse win? Not necessarily, but hey, if you want to be able to save, an extra $10, $15 on whatever your unit size is and put the 4 as one of your doubles at a horse that's 10-1, you certainly could. Or at the very least, again, if you're looking to play this race on its own and you like one of the favorites, this would be a great horse, in my opinion, to try to use underneath. Because I think that's the big thing also to look for here is, yeah, a lot of these horses clearly aren't winning, but then try to figure out, like we were talking about with that maiden race earlier, like, do they have excuses? Is there anything you could find from a track record perspective, whether it's competition, issues, pace base? Try to find things that they have experienced or that they could experience in this race based off their history that may play to their benefit. And I think of anybody in this field, I think the 4 and the 5 are probably the 2 that benefit the most from the way this race should set up.
No, I agree with that. No, you want to add anything to that just from sort of a betting standpoint?
7 horses. There's got to be one of them that's a long shot.
Yeah, no, Charlie makes a good point, because when you get a race like this where you get a group of these one-time winners, there's a lot of weird stuff that can happen. So if you can kind of look for, some angles in horses where, whether they're kind of cutting back, stretching out, first off the claim, some of the stuff that we've kind of already mentioned, you can kind of use that. And even if you kind of do like the favorite in that instance, with a group that's not great, there's not going to be anybody that's, too heavily favored.
Yeah, I guess something you look for. And by the way, hey Jim, this this is a family show. We don't go down those roads here. Just I got kids. They got to cover their ears here. These 2 guys, they can't handle that dirty talk. Watch it. The one thing I was thinking, and I think you sort of hit it, Noah, is I like in a race like this where, again, the horses don't win, but is there something new that might bring a horse forward, whether it's a switch in class, whether they're dropping down, like we talked about. The one good thing with the 5 is that now it's in the Nap barn and then had its best race there. So is he just an improved horse in the new barn? That could be something. When you're looking at a race like this, again, these aren't horses that exude a lot of confidence for you because they just don't like to win. But hey, like every race, somebody's got to win them. I saw Katie mentioned, I don't know, I didn't look at, so there was a maiden special weight. I don't know if either one of you look at the rest of the card or just to pick 5. I didn't look at anything else. No,
I handicapped from GP, so I was doing 2 tracks at once. So I didn't get
I looked at the earlier races.
We had a question about the 4th. Was there anything that jumped out at you? If you didn't, no big deal.
Did she mention? She didn't mention
no, just was saying, did anybody look at anybody in there? I didn't look at any of the early races yet.
Well, in the 4th race, I think just kind of from an odds perspective, some of the major players would be the 2 show card. That horse ran 3rd to Navy Bell, who was in one of the races that you guys covered last.
Did not
Thursday.
Run well though. Did not flatter, but that was against a pretty good field. But
no, it wasn't. And then the other one would probably be Miss Boj, who is a very well met horse and has been a pretty low price in the last 3, but just kind of hasn't gotten it done. So it seems a little bit like Urton kind of doesn't really know what to do with her.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of knock the form of the 2 and you're not sure about the 4, you can kind of get a little value in a race, but there's only 6 horses.
Well, I was going to say here, if you look at I'm just looking at this for the first time. If you look at the 4, lost the debut to Kinza, who's a monster, ran pretty well here. Then they tried the turf. That was a backfire. Now you're coming back, so that's not bad. If anybody cares, my dad will be betting Quick Brown Fox because his dog's name is Fox, and that's how my father plays in his advanced age. He plays the name. So if you care about something like that, but yeah, I didn't look at the early ones. There is a stakes race in the 3rd. Again, I didn't look at it. Stay Hot, the favorite. We don't need to get all into that. But again, as Noah talked, and I'll just mention this pretty quickly. I'll take these off the screen and then we'll get into our pick 5s. But from a power pick standpoint, which we talk a lot here on the power picks, Howard usually completes the power picks himself. And then myself and Paul usually add an ABC grid for whatever the feature track is that we talked about on the Thursday show. But this week, Noah and I are going to be tackling the power picks with Howard in Vegas for the NHC. Noah is handling his track, Santa Anita here, and I will be handling Oaklawn, although I won't give any horses out, but I will say I apologize in advance. I have some short prices because I just didn't like I couldn't come up with any bombs. Again, I handicapped and I made my picks pre-morning line. And then when I saw the morning lines, I had already done all the write-ups. I figured landed on who I liked. I was like, I don't want to change, and then I'll be pissed if they win. and I switched them off. So let me apologize in advance for that. But let's jump into our pick 5 here. I'll start with Noah first. Actually, let me take that one banner off the screen so it's not too distracting for everyone. But Noah, I will start with yours. I'll read it off first, and then you can talk about sort of your ticket construction. So Noah's pick 5, 368 with 456 with 56 with 12 with 457 810, and that's $90. What'd you think about this one? How'd you come up with it? I think the big question here is why would you normally add the second horse against the chosen Vron, or was that just for the purposes of a caveman on the show? How would you treat that one?
Yeah, it was just for the purposes of the caveman. If I'm playing caveman, I want to have a horse just in case something happens. I mean, the chosen Brawn is definitely a very likely winner, but not a shoe-in. I think the first 2 races are pretty tough, so I've gone 3 deep in those, and then the 7th race is the turf race going a mile and 1/8 that we talked about. I'm going to try to get through with those 2. Then I've got the chosen Brawn, and then I've also got Elwood Blues just in case something happens. And then, like I touched on, I think the last race is wide open, so I've got 5, and hopefully I've got myself covered there.
Yeah, I like that one. And like I said, I think we all can hit, which is nice. Let's go, Charlie. We'll bring yours up. I'll read it off. Charlie's got 2, 3, 7, 8 with 4, 6 with 3, 5, 8 with 1 with 5, 7, 9, 10. So you're singling the chosen Vron, and that's a smaller ticket, $48, more in line with, I think, the budget you like to play and what you guys do on the Betting and Boozing show. But talk to us about how you constructed this ticket.
Yeah, honestly, it's still even more. I mean, Noah can speak on this. Normally, when we play our tickets together, we're looking closer to $24. So for me, this was deciding to, break out the bank and be more aggressive. We kind of touched on earlier, I think the first race and the last race, I think we could all kind of agree on, are probably the 2 most open races in the sequence. So for me, I just wanted to have my top 4 horses that I have in each race. I rarely really play more than 4 horses in any leg unless I have multiple singles.
Yep.
So I just want to go that way. Then in the second leg, going with the 4 and the 6, I know my Wi-Fi cut out, but I think Hey Brother is a very interesting horse in that race. For me, that was the other one that really stuck out outside of the 6. I know people have talked about trying to beat the favorite, but as Noah touched on, I thought the 6 didn't get the best trip last time. I think the horses ran against strong competition. And look, if I'm wrong trying to bet against Baffert, I'll live with the consequences. But I just am not sold on the 5, and I agree with Noah. I don't think the horse – I mean, I know Noah has him on top, but I thought he made some strong points actually, maybe not intentionally, but almost arguing why this isn't the race for the 5 because it seems like the horse might want more distance. Singling the chosen – oh, wait, I skipped a race. For 3, 5, 8, again, I made it clear, in my opinion, if you're going to fade a favorite on our sequence in this card, I think Let Sheamus Go is the most obvious one to go with. It's a maiden race. The horse has had every opportunity to have the perfect race and win, hasn't got the job done. The 5 Indispensable looks to have the most room to grow, getting the first chance on turf, and has continued to improve. My top choice, American Glory, I thought was very impressive on the U.S. debut, and I think those are the 2 horses with the most room for improvement. And then as people touched on in the chat, it made me feel even better about it. Shot of Courage is an interesting one where the horse, gets this chance to send that speed from the outside and, now cutting back to the more reasonable distance should benefit. Chosen Vron, not going to get into it. Every time that we've talked about this horse ever, I've just said single and kept moving. I'm not going to change that now. I'm actually probably one of the few people that hasn't tried to beat this horse except for when we were at the Breeders' Cup, and I'm very happy I did because that ended up being a great day. And then in the last race, again, I touched on, I think the race is wide open. I'd almost even be tempted to throw the 4 on my ticket now as well, just because when we talked about it after, it kind of talked me into it. So if I revised my ticket, I'd probably throw the 4 in there as well, which probably just speaks even more volumes, along with the West Coast bias himself saying that he had 7 horses on his ABC ticket, explaining how wide open this race is. But again, I get the forwardly placed horse and then all my closers, hoping one of them maybe can make up for a slow pace. But if there's one thing I've learned most in my handicapping, it's that sometimes if you hate a speed horse, it always quits and you want to play against it. Although not that the 5 necessarily fits that, but you can't just always hope that your closers can make a pace that doesn't exist. So I want to make sure I have the most logical horse. And again, I'd say the only thing I would consider changing is maybe throwing the 4 in there, because I think that's another one pace-wise and excuses-wise that would fit. So that's my $48 ticket.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad to go a little deep in that last one. That one's wide. Again, there's not a lot of winners in that one, so it's wide open. So my ticket, I'll go with 2, 3, 8, with 4, 5, 6, with 3, 5, 6, with 1, 2, with 5, 7, 10, and that one is $81. And again, it's nothing overly complicated. I wouldn't probably play this ticket this way where I wouldn't have Elwood Blues and the Chosen Vron on my ticket, but for caveman purposes, sort of like Noah said, just in case he gets away, it is a Baffert. You never know, anything could happen with a Baffert horse. So if he gets away, I wanted to add him here. But if I was doing an ABC, and I will be for the power picks, I would probably have the Chosen Vron as the A, Elwood Blues, and I'll see if I want to go with maybe the 4, one of the other horses, as a B along with him. Ghost of Midnight, I kind of like that horse as well. And then the other ones, I mostly just went with my top 3 choices. I didn't get super creative. I didn't go overly deep. I didn't want to have a huge ticket because I do think unless you can get a price in at least 2 of them with the Chosen Vron in there, it may not pay much. You don't want to blow it all on one ticket. So I'm going to keep it simple. Stick with my horses there. There's a couple comments I wanted to get to real quick before we wrap it up. There were just a couple good ones in here. From Jim, great info tonight from all the hosts and those in the chat as well. Hey, Tuesday nights are open. Maybe a new show, Pete and Pals, co-starring Charlie and Noah. I'm down for that.
This trio works really well. I'm not against it.
Well, let's first see how our picks work out, because if we give out all dogs, then maybe nobody will want us again. So we'll see. We got Tanner Noah on the power picks. We'll see how that goes. Won't be from Noah. Won't be the last one after Saturday. Noah's got $90. So Katie, this, we're the big money show, so you can come with a little bigger ticket here. Tom Espinoza, great show, guys. Nice to shake things up with those bougie NHC handicappers. I like being with the young guys. Makes me feel young a little bit, even though I'm 100% sure if you combine their 2 ages, it still doesn't add up to mine. But, it makes me feel I'm young at heart. You can't see all the grays, so maybe in the beard, but, that is what it is. But all right, any last words? Noah, any words on the sequence, on the NHC, on pretty much anything that's going on in the horse racing world? Any last thoughts?
No, it was good to hear from our folks in Vegas, and I was glad to cover this for you guys. Supposedly it's for the NHC that we had to step in, but I think it's a little bit of a call to the bullpen. What do you think, Charlie?
Oh no, I completely agree. I think they kind of knew they needed to shake things up and bring in some more. They needed the 3 most youthful people on the podcast, including Pete. I would argue he kind of acts more youthful at times than Kyle anyway. So I think they just wanted that one to get some fresh legs in there. But no, I'm hoping it's going well for them. It was certainly fun to get to step in. I did see, I know this is kind of Pete's call because he's running the show. There were a bunch of people clamoring in the chat that since Paul's gone, there was no rant and asking if I would step in. And I actually happened to have just talked to my friends before we went live. I did have a rant prepared. I didn't know I was going to use it, but if the people want it, I do have a brief
fire away, man. We need some anger. Go ahead, fire away. We won't give you the good intro that Paul gets because
honestly, I don't need the bougie NHC players get the bougie thing into their rant. I don't need it, but I will also give one other shout out to my college, Ohio State, getting a crucial win against Iowa to keep our season alive. We now play my mom's alma mater, a lot of my family's alma mater, Illinois, and if we win, we're probably dancing. So hopefully they.
I was gonna ask you real quick before you get into your rant. I was gonna say, do you have I know you're big into college ball. Is there any? Give me a team that's going to win their conference tournament this weekend at a half decent price. Do you have one off the top of your head?
I've played a few of my friends. Yeah, I know that their tournaments have already started, but Nevada just tipped off. I took them at plus 500. Baylor was plus 650 when I last looked, and I'll give you my biggest long shot that I think is very interesting, but they play later tonight. Their game might have even just started. I took Florida at plus 2,000 to win the SEC, which I know Noah's got to think is wild, but the one thing I think Noah could admit as an SEC guy, when they played Kentucky both times, it came down to the wire. They blew out Alabama, so they do have a very favorable side of the bracket. And I just think with how talented and wide open the SEC is, I think Noah would agree. Trying to take Tennessee or Auburn at like plus 200 or less in a conference where you could pick 7-8 different teams is not worth it. So I'll take plus 2,000. I've actually on Twitter been posting some of mine, and I've hit a few, which is nice considering 2 of mine lost on buzzer beaters.
I was going to say, I saw a lot more complaining about the results from you. But maybe
I did win 3 in a row, but I didn't go out to tweet my winners. I'm more angry on Twitter.
Yeah, so you're more the angry. Yeah, if I followed when I follow your Twitter, I feel anger and disappointment than anything else.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, let's give us a quick rant here. Give us a quick
so my quick rant is all about March Madness. So what I've been seeing is a lot of people clamoring and complaining because we expanded the college football playoff to now go ahead and expand March Madness, which I think quite respectfully is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What people have to understand is the college football playoff, right, is 4 teams at the time. You have more than 4 power conferences before obviously all this merging happens. So you're already cutting out so many teams, and name one playoff in any sport at any level that is only 4 teams. They're never that small. So I completely understand expanding to 12. It is because it was unreasonable to be 4 teams. It makes no sense. And with college kids and how unpredictable it is, you could play a perfect season and just mess up in one game and get out. So I get it. In March Madness, you have 64, and technically because of the first 4 games, you have 68 teams make it. How many more do you need in there? I mean, how many more times do we need to see a Power 5 team that is 17-14 make the tournament? I mean, we're already seeing these teams like Michigan State. I mean, I respect them, but that are going to end up making these tournaments 3-4 games above 500. Do we really want to get to the point where we look at a team and they're like, oh my God, is this bubble team that's 15-15 going to make the tournament? Imagine any sport where you're like a team that's has a 500 record deserves to have like a legitimate chance in the playoffs. So that's the first thing.
I mean, college bowls have gotten to that point where you need
that's why nobody watches.
That's why nobody watches them garbage.
Nobody does. The only people that watch them are degenerate gamblers like me that bet them because we play Bowl Mania and because we just need something to watch and bet on. Otherwise, we wouldn't. So that's a whole other issue I agree with. And then the other issue that I'm upset with is the fact that we're seeing these great teams like Indiana State, who I hope makes the tournament. I mean, they played perfect the whole year. They play an unbelievable season. I mean, I'm happy James Madison won the conference, but these small schools that do unbelievable the whole year and lose 3 or 4 games that are now stressing out about making the tournament because you're going to see these Power 6 conference teams that are 2 games above 500 make it that have lost a bunch of games. In
11th place. Yeah, in 11th place.
Which is ridiculous. If March Madness is about Cinderella stories and excitement, put in these mid-majors that we never get to see. Nobody wants to schedule them. Everybody's scared of them. That's why Indiana State has a weak strength of schedule and JMU is a weak strength of schedule because JMU beat Michigan State to start the season and that could kill them making the tournament. So nobody wants to play these teams. You can't have it both ways. Either force these strong, small schools to get to play the big schools and be able to make it or don't. And the other thing that's ridiculous is if you look at this dumb net ranking thing that they now use, Indiana State's like top 20 in that. Like they're one of the best teams in the country according to the net. So we got to wait to see what happens. But if they don't include Indiana State, my Twitter is going to be absolutely blowing up. Don't expand the teams and let the small schools in. Nobody on God's green earth wants to watch 18-14 Indiana go play again. Nobody on earth wants to go watch some team in the Big East like Villanova, who is 17-14 and lost to Drexel in the tournament. I'm sorry, but nobody cares. Nobody wants to watch them. They're spending $5 million on NIL. And you're a poverty team. Get ready to learn NIT tournament. You're not playing in my tournament. I'm sorry, but I'm sick of it.
Hey, I like it, man. That's a quality rant. Way to step in for Paul here. I mean, I don't know if I think our group is a bunch of gamblers here, so I'm sure they'll appreciate anything. And everybody plays March Madness, but I agree with you. The one thing I always thought was that they should just give automatic berths to all the conference regular season winners, make the regular season valuable, and then you give automatic berths to the tournament winners as well. And then whatever's left, then you give them to all these junk Power 5 or whatever you want to call them conferences and all these crappy teams that get in basically with 500 and just barely over 500 records. So I'm with you. Here we go. Katie like that. We got Charlie nailed it in the head. We got well said, Charlie. Great rant from Steve. So there, we got Kyle Roscoe in here. Luckily he missed all the jokes about
that's his. Right. Kyle made an important comment. I forgot. I was supposed to mention that because it's that time of year. If you can post his most recent comment. We will be doing the
oh yes, here we go. Go ahead. Why don't you guys talk about that?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it more next week. Unfortunately, last year I was unable to be live for the episode, which killed me because I was ready to make the perfect record for the show. But I know last year we did a competition. We did stuff with predictions. Everybody can join. I'm sure there's going to be prizes. I know those haven't been finalized yet, but please join. It's fun. It doesn't cost anything. You're joining for free for the chance to compete with your friends and, get bragging rights and get the chance to win some prizes, of course, and give yourself one more reason to follow. And again, if you want to save some money to bet on the horses, this is free to join. So why not just join? There's absolutely nothing to lose. It's a fun thing. And please tune in. We're going to obviously be covering the horses, but as Bossman had touched on actually at the beginning of the show, Howard had mentioned that we're going to try to get a big guest on the Bear. And obviously we're going to touch on March Madness and, last year, again, it was the worst beat in all mankind. My fire alarm went off when I was going to give out UConn to win March Madness last year.
I remember that.
So I didn't get to give it out, but be sure to be there, guys, because I'm going to make sure to give out a few favorites and long shots to win the tournament. And you have to trust me. The email proof is there. I picked UConn last year, even though I didn't get to say.
I knew you did. I had. I think I was on that show, maybe, or I popped on that.
Yeah.
But I will say, we'll put for anyone, obviously, look on they'll post the link on the Betting and Boozing in the comments, but also we'll put it up on the website as well. Here we go. We got Ed Morales. He's going to defend his title. That's fantastic. Yes, and watch Betting and Boozing on Wednesday nights. There you go, Katie. Tanner's going to be in. All right, I think we've blabbed on long enough.
Yeah,
So
this has
I
been
think
good.
we'll let me take Tanner's little comment off the screen there. We love Tanner, but we don't need his comment on forever. So I'll wrap this up. All I'll say is good luck to our guys and good luck to anybody in the chat who's in the NHC. I know we have a lot of people aside from our folks like, Kyle. Well, Kyle's not necessarily in, but we have Paul, we have Howard, we got Matt Miller, Brad Anderson. I'm going to forget a ton of people. Dave Duncan, Racing Downwind, Terry Franks. There's a bunch of people in that room that we know from either the chat, come on the show, just friends of ours. So good luck to everybody in Vegas. We hope somebody comes back on Monday with a fantastic story where they're talking about how much money they won, or just give me a good Vegas story. I'll take that. I had plenty of those in my day, so I'll take one of those. But let's close it out for my co-hosts on the screen here. The young guys from Betting and Boozing, Noah Maher, West Coast Bias, Charlie Freeman, and Boo Boo We Trust on the screen there. But, I like calling him the Chris Paul. He's got so many things he loves and hates. He hates Steph Curry most days. But, Charlie's my guy. Likes a little bit of the Chargers. Justin Fields is still on the Bears. There's a lot going on in Charlie's life right now. So cut him some slack when he's got his rant going. He's got rants every day. Follow him on Twitter if you like that rant. There's plenty every day. And also for the guys who joined earlier, Kyle Roscoe, we had Matt Miller in the background, Howard Kravitz, Paul Halloran. I'm your host today, Pete Visco. Thanks a lot for joining episode 340 of Picks and Ponies. And like Howard likes to say, crush those bets. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.